Today we're ranking every spell in Clash of Clans to see which one is best and which one is worse. Let's do it. We're going to take a look at every single spell in Clash of Clans, talk a little bit about them, and rank them here on this list S through D in order to determine which one is best. Let's jump right into the action, starting with the healing spell. It's been around since the beginning of Clash of Clans, a 2-space spell. There are 3 2-space spells in Clash of Clans: the healing spell, the jump spell, and the rage spell. Then we'll talk about the clone, the only 3-space spell in the game, and then we'll jump into all the 1-space spells. But the healing spell, a lot of people love it. It definitely has its place in Clash of Clans. It is a pretty good spell for what it does, healing those troops, keeping them alive, but it's really only good on very specific ground attacks, such as Hog Riders, such as Queen Charge Hybrid at the upper level of Clash of Clans. You can use it on a lot of Smash armies that are ground-based, you know, with golems and super bowlers and other troops like that, but it's really not the best spell in the game. There are so many better options for a lot of armies. Any Smash army that involves healers, you're probably going to want to use a rage spell instead of a heal spell, because you can just rage up the healers and the troops together, and the raged healers will keep pretty much anything alive forever. So the healing spell, it's decent. It's really needed on hog attacks and hybrid attacks, so we're going to put it on the B tier. Next up, looking at the jump spell, another staple in Clash of Clans. These first 3 spells have been around since the beginning of the game. The jump spell allows your troops to jump over walls, completely ignore them, and get to their destination as quickly as possible. Now, although the idea is really good, an entire 2 spell space just to be able to jump over 1 or 2 walls. Well, anytime you can use wall breakers or even super wall breakers to get the job done, it's going to be way more efficient than using a jump spell. That way you can take an extra rage, you can take an extra 2 freezes, anything else that'll help your army by using wall breakers instead of the jump spell. So although the jump spell definitely has its place in certain situations, it can be really, really effective. Almost any time you can use wall breakers instead, it's going to be better to use wall breakers and ditch the jump spell. So this is going to go in the C tier. The rage spell is easily one of the best spells in the game, been around since the beginning. It makes your troops angry. It makes your troops fast. The damage multiplier, the speed buff, I mean, just everything about this spell says it is phenomenal. You see a rage spell in almost every single Clash of Clans attack these days, no matter if you're Town Hall 7, Town Hall 9, Town Hall 72. Bro, if you're playing Clash of Clans, if you're doing a war attack, you're probably using at least 1 rage spell. This is going to be the first S tier spell in the game for us. It's so good. You need to be using it in your armies if you're not already. The clone spell. Oh, the clone spell. They've reworked it a few times. They've had to try and buff it several times. It used to be 4 spell space. For those of you that remember, if you've been playing the game long enough, and nobody used it when it was 4 spell space. Now it's currently 3 spell space, and still it's not super great. Some of the pros use it up at Town Hall 14 for very specific reasons. You know, cloning usually the troops that are in your battle blimp, such as a cloned super minion blimp, or sometimes even a cloned Yeti bomb. It can get good value when you do things like that, but other than those specific situations, even these days, still, not many people are using the clone spell. This is going to be our first D tier spell. The freeze spell is one of my favorites in Clash of Clans, might even be my favorite. Allows you to freeze up several defenses at once. I believe up to 6 defenses if they're all touching each other, but usually, at least on good bases, the defenses aren't touching each other. You can often freeze 2 or 3 defenses at a time, stop those defenses from shooting your queen, from shooting your balloons, from shooting anything for a period of time. It's really effective when used correctly, a very strategic spell. It requires a lot of decent skill, really good timing as well. This is going to be our first A tier spell. The Earthquake is a very interesting spell. It's a very simple concept. You drop it and it has a large radius and it just does some damage. Now the damage is not a direct number like the lightning spell. that we'll talk about later. Instead, the Earthquake deals a percentage damage. A max Earthquake spell will deal 29% damage to whatever buildings it touches, and then the second one you drop on that same building will do less and less and less. So the more Earthquakes you use, there are diminishing returns. So you normally don't want to use more than one unless you're bringing 4 Earthquakes to bust open a wall, which is exactly how many it takes to bust open a wall. And even then, 4 spell space to bust open some wall segments, well, at that point, you're probably better off bringing some jump spells. So the Earthquake, it does have its uses. A lot of the pros will mash up one Earthquake with a bunch of lightnings to take out some defenses. But unless you're doing that, or using the Earthquake to wake up the Town Hall at Town Hall 12, 13, 14, you're probably not going to be using it for much. Those are really the only good uses. We're going to put it above the jump spell, but it is going to be a C tier spell. The skeleton spell is a very interesting spell. You drop it and a bunch of skeletons spawn. Now, it did get a buff about a year or so ago. It used to actually be pretty bad, in my opinion, but they changed it to where the skeletons spawn with like armor, and so it basically takes 2 shots to kill a skelly now instead of 1, how it used to be. And now the skeleton spell is actually really decent if you use it correctly. There's a lot of different uses for it. You can use it to kill enemy heroes, like the Archer Queen, the Barbarian King. You can also use it to tank defenses, such as single target Inferno Towers, scatter shots. It allows things like your Royal Champion to get a lot more value as long as the defenses are distracted by the single target Inferno Tower. One way you see it used a lot at the top level of Clash of Clans, like at Town Hall 14, is in the Inferno Baby Dragon spam attack. A lot of the pros will use these skeleton spells to drop in front of their Inferno Baby Dragons to keep all the defenses from shooting the Inferno Babies, and it works out really, really well. We're gonna put it in the B tier, but it's gonna be above the heal spell. Really good spell when you use it correctly, but the timing has to be perfect, and it can be easy to mess up. The Invisibility Spell might be my favorite. It's a toss-up between the Invis and the Freeze Spell. It's a really good spell. I think this is the most recent spell addition to the game. I believe so, yeah. It's simple. You can make buildings invisible to reroute your troops, your heroes. You can make your troops or your heroes invisible, so that way they don't take any damage. There's a lot of different strategic ways to use the invisibility spell. It doesn't last as long as the freeze spell, but I do think it has more ways it can be used, more ways you can manipulate the game in order to change stuff. You know, making buildings invisible can change your queen pathing. Making your queen invisible can allow her to stay alive a lot longer, and can also redirect the enemy CC troops or the enemy heroes' attention to other troops. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with it. You can make sneaky goblins invisible while they're taking out a town hall, as long as you drop it correctly and you don't make the town hall invisible, like a lot of people mess up. We've all been there. I am gonna give it a spot in the A tier, and we're gonna put it behind the freeze, because I think the freeze is a lot easier to use and a lot better for most people. But the Invis, when used correctly, is a really good spell. Next up, we have the Lightning Spell. I like to call it the Zap, little zappy action for those people that use it. It is also pretty versatile. There's a lot of different things you can do with it, although it does seem pretty straightforward. It's a spell, 1 space, you drop it, and it does some damage. Simple, but there's so many ways you can use it. You can pair it up with an Earthquake and a few lightning spells to take out one particular building. This is actually more common down at the lower levels. Town Hall 10, Town Hall 11, Town Hall 12. You see a lot of people zapping out air defenses, zapping out sweepers. It's really common on dragon attacks. Even up at Town Hall 14, a lot of players still use it, although it is more expensive because you have to bring like 5 zaps, 6 zaps just to take out an Inferno Tower or a scatter shot. But some people still do it, or even the famous double zap for an air sweeper on some of those air spam attacks. It is pretty common. You do see a lot of people using it, but at the same time, I don't think it's the greatest spell in the game. I don't think it's as good as a freeze. It's not as good as an invis, because there's so many ways you can use those. But we're gonna give it a spot in the B tier, but I do think we're gonna edge it above the healing spell. Next up, the Haste. I love the Haste, but I might be a little biased because I am a Lavaloon player. The Haste spell really only good for balloons But at the same time, if you've seen me play, if you've seen my videos for a long time, you know that I believe Lava Loon is probably the best attack in the game. Although it takes a lot of skill to use, not every player likes to use it. It probably is the strongest attack in the game. And when you use these haste spells correctly, in combination with the balloons, oh man, they can just fly through bases and they make it look easy. We are going to give it a spot here in the A tier because it deserves it, even though there's really only one good use out of the haste spell, and that's paired up with balloons. I mean, sure, you can make wall breakers fast, you can make dragons fast with haste spell, but it usually gets the best value with balloons. Next up, the bat spell. This was a cool addition to the game. I remember when they first released the bat spell. How many of you guys remember that first day it came out? It was so incredibly strong. They had to nerf it on the same day because you could just take out an entire base with all bat spells. LOL. They've nerfed it a couple of times, actually. I think more than once. Now it's a decent spell. Definitely not super bad. I don't think it deserves a spot in the D tier. I don't think it deserves a spot in the C tier either, but which of these spells is it better than? I mean, there's different ways you can use the bat spells. A lot of people like to use them clumped up with, 4, 5, 6 bat spells in a bat bomb or even a bat wave going through to take out a bunch of defenses. But you also see some people use it in the Skelly Donut or the Bat Donut at the beginning of the attack, more of a thing you see at the pro scene at Town Hall 14 to take out a defense early, one particular defense, maybe in the middle of the map next to the clan castle. There's a lot of different ways you can use it, but overall probably not as strong as some of the other spells like the freeze and the invis, for example. So I think we're going to put it right here in the B tier above the healing spell. Last but not least, we have the poison spell. And in my opinion, when's the last time you saw somebody do an attack without a poison spell? Well, maybe they were attacking, maybe they were farming, or maybe they were doing a Skelly Donut where they took out the CC right away. Those are really the only exceptions. Other than that, you're always going to be taking a poison spell, although you only take 1 or 2, never more than 2, or else you're just being kind of wasteful. The poison spell was such an amazing addition to the game. It allows you to slow down and kill the enemy CC troops, even enemy heroes, if you want to. It allows your troops to stay alive so much longer, and it does deserve a spot in the S tier. It's gonna be our second S tier spell. I still believe the Rage spell is the best spell in the game, hands down, but Poison is right up there with it. These are arguably the 2 best spells in the game. And there's my list. Let me know what you think about it. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Which spells would you move up? Which spells would you move down? Let me know why. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to help support the channel, remember to use code Lexnos in the in-game shop before you make any purchases. Let me know some ideas, what videos I should make next, and I will catch you guys later.